One player was called Washed Up at the start of the year, but by December, he was lifting the biggest trophy in Valorant. We've never seen a comeback like this. Over the past 5 years, Valorant has evolved from a beta experiment into the most competitive FPS on the planet. We've witnessed unknown players become legends fall from grace, and underdogs rise to claim the throne. What few realize is that every top player featured here was expected to fail. These 5 were counted out, but today, they stand as the greatest in Valorant history. So how did they shock the entire world? By the end of this video, you'll never look at failure the same way again. Right when Valorant launched in June 2020, no one knew exactly what to expect. It was a fresh mix of CSGO precision and Overwatch abilities, and nearly every former CS pro was jumping in, trying to adapt, but most struggled. The movement felt off, the abilities were confusing, and the meta was still a mystery. Amid all this, one player was grinding ranked matches harder than anyone else. Tyson Engo, better known as Tenz, had a reputation in CSGO as a mechanically gifted player who never quite broke through at the highest level. In 2019, Cloud9 signed the young Canadian to their CSGO roster, expecting him to rise quickly. His aim was insane, his reflexes lightning fast, and his mechanics so sharp they often made highlight reels. Yet, in competitive CSGO, raw skill only goes so far. Tenz struggled to find his role on the team, often flattering with inconsistent positioning and failing to turn his individual talent to team victories. Many saw him as a case of unfulfilled potential, a player who looked incredible in practice but couldn't deliver it consistently on stage. When Tenz announced he was switching to Valorant full-time, the reaction was lukewarm. To most, it seemed like just another talented CS player looking for a fresh start. What they didn't realize was how perfectly Valorant's unique gameplay fit Tenz's style. Cloud9 took a chance, signing him to their new Valorant roster. Even then, early tournaments were rocky. Some matches saw Tenz playing like a god, while others saw him vanish completely. The problems from his CS days seemed to shadow him still. Critics didn't hold back. Headlines read things like, "Tenz continues to fail under pressure, now 0-9 at win-or-go-home maps on LAN since July 2017. Then came a turning point. Not at the big First Strike tournament, which 100 Thieves won, but in the many ranked matches and smaller competitions where Tenz started showing something fresh. His jet play redefined the agent's potential. Shots that looked impossible landed. He dashed into angles no one thought to check, picked off enemies to open rounds, and won clutch moments that seemed hopeless. What set Tenz apart wasn't just his aim, it was his deep understanding of Valorant. The abilities confusing others clicked perfectly for him, and agent combos that seemed random to many were actually calculated moves in his hands. Valorant's first viral superstar was born. The same raw aim that failed to carry him in CSGO now defined peak Valorant play. Suddenly, every player wanted to move like Tenz, shoot like Tenz, and think like Tenz. A player once written off as promising but inconsistent talent had become a legend, proving that failure in one place can be preparation for greatness in another. And this rise was only the start. 2021 brought someone who was even more doubted than Tenz, ready to take the spotlight. Mehmet Yagiz Ipek had a rare problem for a young aspiring pro. He was dominating his local scene, but outside of Turkey, almost nobody knew his name. Playing under the handle CNED, he spent 2020 climbing EU-ranked ladders and tearing through small tournaments. His op work was surgical, his rifling clean, and his timing in fights felt unreal. Still, Turkey wasn't seen as a major region in Valorant, so even with all that talent, he stayed under the radar. When Ascend decided to build a new roster around him, the response wasn't exactly positive. Most fans and analysts didn't recognize the name, and many questioned whether a guy without experience on big stages could actually perform against international talent. A lot of people saw it as a gamble. 2021 was already shaping up to be Valorant's most competitive year yet. Teams were leveling up fast, strats were getting sharper, mechanics were improving across the board. In that environment, raw talent wasn't enough. You had to be consistent, calm under pressure, and smart in clutch moments. At first, the doubts seemed valid. Ascend showed promise but wasn't yet among the elite. CNED had big games, but also matches where the pressure caught up with him. His highs were high, but his lows gave critics plenty to talk about. Behind the scenes though, he was grinding, watching VODs, reviewing mistakes, tightening his decision making. He rebuilt the way he saw the game. Every mistake became a lesson, and the gap between his peaks and valleys started shrinking fast. Things began to shift during the mid-year events. CNED hit impossible shots. Holding certain angles became a bad idea. Taking map control near him felt risky. His op presence changed how opponents approached rounds. All of that set the stage for Champions Berlin 2021, the biggest Valorant tournament to date. The best from every region had qualified, and while Ascend came in as a favorite, it was still wide open. With teams like Sentinels, Gambit, and Liquid in the mix, nobody expected a clean path to the title. What happened at Champions was more than a breakout, it was domination. From the group stage to the grand finals, CNED played on another level. His operator forced teams to change their game plans. His rifling in pressure rounds was automatic. His reads were fast, clean, and deadly. Players stopped taking duels with him because it just didn't end well. When Ascend needed a pick, he found it. When they were in a tight spot, he bailed them out. He was the constant that held everything together. The final against Gambit was expected to be a close, strategic chess match. Instead, it turned into a highlight reel. CNED's flicks, his holds, his clutches broke Gambit's rhythm. He made one of the smartest teams in the world look lost. By the time Ascend lifted the trophy, there was no more debate. CNED had proven he wasn't just the best player in Turkey, he was one of the best in the world. And he did it by playing his game without backing down from the pressure. What stood out even more was how he handled it all. No trash talk, no drama, just praise for his teammates and respect for the grind. He raised the bar for Turkish players and for everyone. In a game that was evolving fast, CNED tilted the scales. He made people rethink what was possible for a Jet Op player on the world stage, and made sure nobody overlooked a player just because of where they came from again. And while 2021 was CNED's year, the next chapter of Valorant would be defined by a player who took everything CNED brought to the table and pushed it even further. By the time 2022 kicked off, Valorant had become a global esports phenomenon. The meta was evolving, the competition was deeper, and the expectations were sky high. Everyone wanted to know who would rise next. Turns out, they didn't have to wait long. Jacob Whitaker, better known as Ye, wasn't exactly a newcomer to the scene. He'd been around in CSGO under the nickname El Diablo, known for having some of the cleanest aim in North America. He wasn't flashy, he didn't scream after rounds, he just hit shots every single time. Still, in CSGO, he never quite broke into the top tier. He had strong performances on teams like Complexity, but the spotlight rarely followed him. A lot of people just wrote him off as another good but not great aimer. When Ye made the switch to Valorant, the expectations weren't sky high. He wasn't part of the first wave of hyped signings or flashy roster announcements, but once he started playing with Andbox, something clicked. His aim was just as deadly, but in Valorant, it mattered more. The space created by agents and abilities gave Ye the perfect environment to play his game patient, calculated, and brutally efficient. Then came the move to Envy, and that's when everything changed. Ye started playing Jet like a sniper assassin. He'd find angles no one else dared to take, get an opening kill, and vanish before anyone could trade. His mechanics were so clean, it looked like he was playing a different game. The numbers he put up weren't just good, they were absurd. Multi-kill rounds, game-saving clutches, perfect first blood timings. He was dominating the server in a way that felt unfair. People started calling him the best player in the world. Not the flashiest, not the loudest, just the most reliable. If Ye was alive and around, the other team was nervous, and when Chamber entered the meta, it was game over. The agent felt like it was made for him, a defensive, precise sentinel who could hold angles and take duels with no risk of punishment. With Chamber's teleport and ultimate in his hands, Ye was dangerous and untouchable. In 2022, now playing under Optic after Envy rebranded, Ye led the team through one of the most consistent and dominant seasons in Valorant history. They made deep runs at every international tournament, Masters Reykjavik, Masters Copenhagen, and Champions, and won Reykjavik with Ye playing out of his mind the entire event. He was named MVP of the tournament, and it wasn't even close. Match after match, Ye was the difference maker. He'd shut down the players from Europe, APAC, and Brazil round after round, map after map. You couldn't anti-strat him. You couldn't out-aim him. He turned 50-50 duels into 90-10s. Even when teams tried to double swing him or use utility to force him off angles, he'd still get his pick and reset. And just like Tenz and Shazam before him, Ye wasn't loud about it. He didn't farm content or chase the spotlight. He just kept showing up, putting up numbers, and winning winning games. His consistency wasn't just rare, it was historic. By the end of 2022, there was no debate. Ye wasn't just the best chamber in the world, he was the best player in the world. And the scary part, he made it look easy. He proved that greatness doesn't need to shout. Sometimes it just shows up round after round and shuts down every single thing in its way. But Ye's dominance was about to be challenged by something nobody saw coming. A complete unknown who was about to shock the entire Valorant community, Max Mazanov. Max Mazanov, known as Demon 1, had a secret that very few in the Valorant community knew. While most pros were scrimming for hours every day and content creators were busy building their brands, Demon 1 was working a regular job and grinding Valorant on the side, treating it more like a hobby than a career. When Evil Geniuses announced they were signing him, most of the community didn't know who he was, and the reaction was mostly confusion and doubt. EG had been struggling and needed a change to shake up their roster and create a new identity. Instead of signing a proven star or poaching talent from other teams, they took a huge gamble on a player that most people had never even heard of. Demon 1 wasn't just unknown, he was a complete mystery. No major tournament results, no viral clips, no reputation. He was the definition of a nobody trying to become somebody in one of the most competitive FPS games in the world. The early months of 2023 were rough for both Demon 1 and EG. They were losing matches people expected them to win, struggling to stay coordinated, and taking a lot of heat for how the roster was built. A lot of the criticism focused on Demon 1. His aim, game sense, and limited agent pool were all being picked apart. Some even joked that EG had signed a ranked player and expected him to hold his own against the best teams in the world. What nobody saw was what was happening behind the scenes. Demon 1 wasn't just learning how to play Valorant at the professional level, he was improving at a rate that was hard to explain. Every scrim, every match, and every piece of feedback made him better. He had the work ethic of someone who had never been handed anything and the hunger of someone who knew this might be his only chance. The first sign that things were changing came at the lock-in tournament early in 2023. EG made a surprisingly deep run, and Demon 1 started showing flashes of the player he could become. Most people wrote it off as a fluke. One good tournament doesn't make a career. They were about to be proven very wrong. As the 2023 season went on, Demon 1 transformed in front of everyone's eyes. His jet gameplay became more aggressive and precise. His Astra utility usage reached levels that even veteran controllers admired. Most importantly, his clutch factor in high-pressure moments became legendary. The real test came at Champions Los Angeles, the biggest tournament of the year, with every top team from around the world. If Demon 1 was going to prove he belonged among the elite, this was the place. EG entered as underdogs. Despite a decent season, no one expected them to make a deep run against dominant teams like Fnatic, Loud, and Paper Rex. What happened next shocked the Valorant world. Demon 1 didn't just play well, he played like someone who had been competing at this level for years. His decision-making was flawless, his aim was clinical, and his ability to step up in crucial moments reminded fans of the greatest clutch players in FPS history. Match after match, Demon 1 carried EG through impossible situations. When a hero play was needed, he delivered. When a tight map had to be closed out, he was there. On the biggest stage, Demon 1 proved he was ready. The grand finals against Paper Rex were expected to be competitive, but instead, Demon 1 and EG put on a masterclass performance. They won Champions 2023 convincingly, and Demon 1 was crowned Finals MVP. The player, who had been a complete unknown just months earlier, was now holding the biggest trophy in Valorant. What's even more impressive is that Demon 1's story didn't stop there. Throughout 2024 and into 2025, he has continued to cement his status as one of the absolute best players in the world. His breakout wasn't a one-time thing, it was the start of a legendary career. The nobody had become the most important somebody in the game, and he was only getting started. Following Demon 1's incredible rise, another Valorant star was about to come to rise as well. Eric Santos, known as Aspas, was living every Brazilian Valorant fan's dream. He was the star player on Loud, the most successful team in his region's history. Having won Champions 2022, made deep runs at multiple international events, and earned a reputation as one of the best duelists in the world, Aspas was at the top of his game. So when he announced he was leaving Loud to join Leviathan, a South American team competing internationally, the backlash was immediate. A lot of people said he was making a mistake, claiming he only looked good because of the team team around him, and that he wouldn't be able to succeed without Loud's system. Some even suggested he was just another Brazilian player who would get exposed on the international stage. And it wasn't just casual fans. Plenty of analysts, pros, and content creators openly questioned the move. Loud had built their identity around Aspas' aggressive dueling style, but they had also created the perfect support system for him. His teammates knew exactly how to set him up, the coaching staff understood his strengths and weaknesses, and he communicated in Portuguese with other players he had known for years. Now, Aspas faced a completely different challenge. Joining Leviathan meant adapting to new teammates, communicating in English, and proving that his success was not just a product of Loud's system. The early months of 2024 seemed to confirm the critics' worst fears. Leviathan struggled out of the gate, the chemistry felt off, strategies seemed disconnected, and Aspas wasn't putting up the dominant numbers that had made him famous. The community was quick to pile on, saying Aspas was overrated and just a system player. What the critics didn't realize was that Aspas wasn't struggling because he had lost skill. He was struggling because he was learning a whole new way to play Valorant. At Loud, he had been the clear focal point. Every strategy was designed to put him in positions to succeed. Every utility use was calculated to set up his duels, and every teammate knew their role was to enable his aggressive style. At Leviathan, he had to become part of a more balanced system. He needed to adapt his playstyle to fit with different teammates, master callouts in a second language, and prove his worth all over again. Most players would have cracked under that pressure. Instead, Aspas used it as a fuel to improve. Slowly but surely, throughout 2024, Aspas began to prove that his skill wasn't tied to any one system or group of teammates. His jet gameplay reached new levels of precision and game sense. His ability to find impact rounds even when the team struggled became legendary. Most importantly, his leadership and English communication improved so much that he was calling shots and making crucial mid-round decisions. Leviathan started winning matches they had no business winning. They took maps off teams that were supposed to be much stronger. At the center of it all was Aspas, playing some of the best Valorant of his career. By the end of 2024, Aspas had the highest average combat score of any duelist in international competition. His first kill percentage was through the roof. His clutch round win rate ranked among the best in the world. Most importantly, he had led Leviathan to multiple deep tournament runs against the strongest competition. What makes this story even more remarkable is that while Aspas was proving himself on the international stage, other players like Forsaken, Dirk, and Boaster were also reaching new peaks. The competition had never been fiercer. The player, who many expected to fail outside Brazil, had just proven he was the best individual player in the world, regardless of teammates, system, or language. The so-called regional player had conquered the world. So there's your answer to the question we asked at the beginning. Tenz proved that unfulfilled potential could become legendary achievement when you found the right game for your skills. Shazam showed that washed players could lead teams to perfect tournament runs when they combined experience with relentless preparation. Ye transformed from a ranked demon into El Diablo by taking his solo queue dominance and scaling it up to work against the best teams in the world. Demon 1 went from complete unknown to Champions MVP and has continued to dominate at the highest level, proving his rise wasn't luck but pure talent meeting opportunity. And Aspas proved that greatness travels anywhere by leaving his comfort zone and becoming the best individual player on the planet. But that's the thing about Valorant. It may be about competition in general. It doesn't care about your past struggles, your reputation, or what other people say about your potential. It only cares about what you do when everything's on the line, when the pressure is highest, and when proving doubters wrong is the only thing that matters. 5 years, 5 failures. 5 legends who rewrote the rules of what's possible. And that's exactly why the next player everyone's sleeping on might just be 2025's greatest story.